Hello and welcome to this Human Resources video for Business Bootcamp. Today our topic is equal employment opportunity. So first of all, what is equal employment opportunity and what does it cover? The specifics of equal employment opportunity, or EEO, vary from one place to another, although the basic concept is that it applies whenever employers are engaging with their employees. This basically means that there are certain circumstances in which it is illegal for an employer to treat their employee differently or unfairly based on their traits. This covers all aspects of their employment, whether it be hiring, promotions, working conditions, or termination, throughout their entire length of employment. This is why HR managers must be fully aware of the extent of EEO in order to minimize the amount of complaints and deal with them accordingly when they do occur. In addition to the opportunities that are covered by EEO law, the classes or characteristics that are illegal to discriminate against are also determined. Overall, all of these characteristics are things that are either uncontrollable or based on a personal decision that should not affect performance. Federally, there are many different laws that have been added over time to regulate different types of situations and instances of discrimination in the workplace. In addition, there are also state laws that vary from place to place that sometimes cover more situations or qualities and make them illegal to discriminate against. Some examples of additional coverage are for things like legal off-duty conduct such as smoking, jury duty, and whistleblowing. Some states also expand on things which are already covered by federal law with additional rules and regulations. Globally, the extent to which laws of one's own country are enforced when they are working in another is based on societal norms, and there is currently no concrete rule that governs it. As for what applies when dealing with citizens of a country versus immigrants, legal and illegal, it gets a bit complicated because that is currently a highly debated issue in the US. As for other countries, the right to work depends on the laws of that specific place. In U.S. law, through the enactment of different laws, there's been the emergence of 4 different types of discrimination within the workplace that all situations can be categorized into. The first type of discrimination is disparate treatment, which is when an employer takes an adverse employment action, like termination, due to the consideration of a protected characteristic. Since it's a characteristic that's protected by law, it can't be used as consideration for an action like that, and the employer's action would be considered illegal. The next type is disparate impact, which is when a policy or practice is put into effect by the employer that might seem harmless, but actually has a negative effect on employees of certain protected characteristics. Some examples of this include physical or cosmetic requirements targeted towards those with conditions. The third type is harassment, or intentional discrimination of the traits of another through actions towards them. An example of this is sexual harassment, when actions like unwelcome advances and other conducts take place with the threat of termination or other employment actions. Harassment can also take place via a hostile work environment that becomes disruptive and abusive towards the employee. The last type of discrimination is retaliation, in which an employee exercises their rights properly and the employer retaliates against them with consequences because of that. The most common situation in which this would occur is if the employee speaks out against unsafe, unfair, or discriminatory workplace practices and is punished because of that. So now that you're aware of all the different types of violations and how EEO law works, when it comes to preventing violations, the best thing to do is to have an in-depth system to ensure adherence to the EEO laws. Each plan won't be exactly the same, but there are some things that all of them should have in common. The first is to establish a philosophy that treats employees as individuals entitled to fair treatment and respect. Once a philosophy and values are established, it should be taught and pushed throughout all parts of a company with training, procedures, etc. Having it clear and known to all employees is a must. The next thing there should be is a list of clear written rules and practices to accompany that. This is just another way of ensuring that compliance with EEO laws is pushed in the workplace through sticking to these policies and maintaining a good environment. The final thing I believe is essential to mitigate the risk of violations is to have an efficient way of dealing with problems and complaints. Having an effective way to investigate and resolve issues makes sure that nothing evolves into a larger conflict that could cause more issues. You're getting rid of the problem before it grows. In the event that there is a formal accusation and violation, there is a larger process that needs to take place, although there are still things you should keep in mind throughout. Investigations should be conducted promptly, fairly, and thoroughly in order to properly fix the issue as best as possible in the interest of all parties involved. Appropriate remedial actions should also be taken based on the outcome and in consideration of those who have been affected. Now, in the event that a lawsuit is taken, one of the most important things is to just follow the process and resolve the issue as best as it can be, despite whatever actions might be taken and whatever process has to be followed. Being knowledgeable about EEO laws and having systems in place to deal with everything is an important part of a company to ensure that everything runs smoothly. One example of a situation involving EEO is if an employee makes a complaint about a new practice the business has introduced. Without a system or knowledge of EEO, there would be a high chance of this evolving into a bigger problem that could have huge effects on the business as a whole. That's why it's important to have measures and systems in place for this to resolve everything seamlessly in a way that's good for all involved. That concludes this video on equal employment opportunity. I'd like to thank you for watching on behalf of Business Bootcamp, and some places you can find us on are Instagram, YouTube, or LinkedIn.